About to push record. Welcome, 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 everyone. This is the IACT IMDHA Presenters Series. We are getting ready for the HypnoExpo2018 in beautiful Daytona Beach. Look behind me, ladies and gentlemen. What a lovely place. Don't you want to put your toes in the water? You know, it is, as I mentioned a minute ago to some people, it is over 80 degrees here in Florida today. We are getting ready for all of you to come and visit. Things are growing and sprouting, and it's just lovely time of the year to be visiting Florida. So we'll be looking forward to seeing you all in about a month. A couple of announcements that I need to make. First of all, let me just introduce to you my my co-host, Karen. Hi, Karen.
Hi there. Good to see you tonight. Thanks for joining us.
Good to see you. How are things going in Chicago?
Things are cold in Chicago. I'm ready to come to Daytona now. We had a nice little respite for a couple of days where it was warm, and now it's gone back into the 30s, and we had more snow, and so it's kind of a cruel joke.
Yeah, well, all the more reason then to pack your bags and get ready for this. Trip. I understand, by the way, that you're inclined in maybe the next few years to set up some residence down here in the Sunshine State. So
yes.
and being someone who is also from Chicago,
right?
Emphasis on the preposition.
Yes.
I'm glad to be here. So just quick announcements as we begin to let everybody know this program is being recorded. So be careful, watch what you say, watch what you do, you know, look how you act, because you're on the internet. And the recording will be posted on the IACT IMDHA website under a tab at the top of the page for conferences. If you click there, it'll drop down a box and you'll see teleconferences listed below. Every one of the programs that we've done so far is available there. This one from tonight will also be available there in the next about 2 days, I think, before they get it up there. And there's only going to be one more, by the way. Next week, we're going to be talking with Anthony DeMarco, who is our lawyer friend, who is the head of the Council of Professional Hypnosis Organizations. He's going to be talking about epigenetics at the conference, so we're looking forward to that, and we're gonna see him next week. And then Karen and I are going to give you just a recap of all of the wonderful things that you can expect to experience at the expo. So come and party with us a week from today as well, and we'll have a great time. Oh, go ahead.
By the way, you get CEUs for joining us tonight, so be sure you log into the IACT site and let them know that you spent some time with us, and you'll get your CEUs. And anyone who, by the way, listens to this on the recording or watches it on the recording can also get CEUs for it. So you can do that. You can also find us in the virtual chapter, because this is a product or an offering of the virtual chapter group. The second Tuesday of every month, the virtual chapter meets for IACT, which also offers CEUs if you attend the virtual chapter. We had very interesting hypnotists from all over the world joining us. The second Tuesday of every month, and you can find out all about that if you'd like to on Facebook. Just go to search the virtual chapter group and join it, because we put up the replays there too.
Yep, it's simply called Virtual Chapter. You'll find the group and all the information you need to log on for our meetings and who the guests are going to be and so on and so on. By the way, next Tuesday.
Yes.
Wait, what day is this? What year?
Yeah.
So yeah, next Tuesday, the 10th of April, will be our April meeting of the virtual chapter, and we're going to have Alberto Resende de la Sola as our guest, who is the gentleman that created the hypnosis conference in Brazil that our guest tonight, Cheryl, and I attended, and a number of other people that you've talked to on here. So we're looking forward to Alberto. He's going to talk about social media and building and creating your practice and such as that. So we're looking forward to that as well. So those are all the announcements that we need to make. So I do want to tell you about this this lovely lady that we have, who is staying up in the middle of the night, coming to us from the UK. So we're so appreciative of her being here with us. Her name is Helen Breward, and Helen is a pioneer of the Menopause Relief Program, which has gained national and international recognition for helping women with hot flushes. She now trains therapists in her work and has practitioners in 8 countries helping women to take back control. Helen has also presented her work at hypnosis conferences in Canada, Las Vegas, and London. And prior to working full-time in her hypnotherapy clinic, she was a primary school teacher for 13 years. Quite a change of clientele there, Helen.
Yeah.
Just a little. They've gone from being small to being big.
So welcome. We're really delighted to have you here with us tonight, and again, thanks for staying up so late in order to be with us.
No, it's my pleasure. It's great to be here.
I'm curious how you made that transition from being that school teacher to being that adult hypnotist.
Well, it's actually quite easy when you know the profession. I don't know about in America, but here in England, being a school teacher is a very stressful profession to be in. And I had hypnosis for stress to help me deal with the stress and to help me manage it better. And that was how I got into it, because I kind of then realised how amazing it was. And it just kind of built up from there. I sort of did the training, and I've seen a few people, because I worked part-time, so I was kind of juggling both things. Mm-hmm. So I worked part-time as a school teacher and as a hypnotherapist, and then gradually I got to that point where I thought, no, I want to do this full-time. I want to sort of, I've done my bit with teaching now. I need to leave it. So that was what I did.
Nice. Yeah. By the way, I might mention Helen's program on menopause. I'm a menopause specialist. In fact, it's like a certification course. Is that right?
It's the Menopause Relief Specialist Hypnosis Program. So yeah, definitely.
Okay. And that's on Friday, by the way. I guess I didn't say it at the top of the hour, but our this presenter series is actually presenting speakers and presenters that are offering pre and post conference programs at the expo. So Helen's program is an all-day program. It's on Friday, May 18th, the first day of the weekend of the conference. And so it's a full day of training and stuff. So Helen, can you just tell us a little bit about maybe a little overview of the course and what people can expect to learn from it?
Okay. The course, during the course, you'll learn a little bit about the menopause, because you'll be surprised how little women actually know about the menopause. If you ask them, they'll say, that's when I stop having periods and I get hot flushes. And that is quite often more or less all they know. So there'll be some background information on the menopause, a little bit about hormones and how that affects your body, talking through some of the common symptoms. The symptoms are a huge list. So we go through the more common ones that you're likely to come across. And then there's things like what I would call quick fixes, the triggers, because quite often people have triggers, things that will set off a hot flush. And quite often with some of those things, you can do something very simple to either get rid of it or to reduce it. So those can be very quick fixes before you even start doing hypnosis. So we learn those things as well. The participants will receive all the training manual with all the scripts and all the information in it that we go through. I think there's about 6. I can't remember if I've added a 7th one. I think there's at least six scripts in there for them to use with their clients to help them reduce and learn how to deal with their own hot flushes in much better ways. There's all the press releases that are in the back of the manual that I've had done myself, that I've had. There's also a DVD video guide that they get with it that walks them through the manual. So if they want to go back to it later, they can do that quite easily. If it's recorded, then they also get recordings. I also have some recorded anyway, so they can people can have those too as well, because it is quite useful to go back and revisit what it is that you've done when you've done a session and stuff like that. There's a secret Facebook group that I have for all my practitioners where we can go and ask questions and pose different things and talk. If there's a client that people are having particular difficulty with, or they're not sure what to do, it's a safe area where people can go and ask questions. And I'm also have my website's just it's not quite well. I say it's almost finished. I've just had it revamped and redone, But my website is always one of those that never actually finishes, because I then go, oh, could you add this to it? Oh, and can we do that? And I want to stick this. Oh, and this has changed now. So it's continually changing. But I'm having a Find a Practitioner page added to it, where the clients can go and find someone nearer to them to work that does this work, to go and work with if they choose to. Because I should be bringing with me a book. I've just finished writing a book about the menopause, so that will be going. That's being launched the first week of May. So because of that, because it's mentioned in there about my practitioners, that's why we need the page. Does that all make sense? That kind of sounded like gobbledygook to me.
No, it all made perfect sense. I do have a question about triggers you talked about.
Yeah.
Because, boy, I was familiar with stress-induced.
Yes, yes.
So I'm very familiar with that, and probably a lot of women are too. But do you talk about other kinds of triggers, Helen, like, coffee and I don't even know what the triggers might be. What are some of them?
So one of the common ones, stress is, in my opinion, stress is probably the biggest trigger for hot flushes. So one of the things is, luckily for us, the way hypnosis goes, it's a natural thing to reduce stress anyway. So sure. That helps with that one without even talking about it. That being said, there are different sessions that we can do to help with the stress anyway. Stress aside, one of the other things is two hot things together. So it could be like a hot cup of tea and a hot meal. And people will often say, oh my God, I get. The easy thing with that is just to replace the hot drink with a cold drink.
Right.
Bingo. I had a lady, it must have been, I forget now, a couple of years ago now, and she said to me, oh, I'm getting a really bad hot flush in the morning. So I, what do you do then in the morning? So she said, oh, well, I'm blow drying my hair, and I'm drinking my cup of tea. Yes. All right, okay. So all I said to her was, I tell you what, have your cup of tea after you finish blow drying your hair. Bingo. Got rid of that one straight away. And then sometimes that's all it takes.
A hot shower, blow drying hair, and hot coffee. Boy, what a combo platter for a hot flash, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's guaranteed, that one, isn't it?
That's right. But it didn't occur to me until you just mentioned it, that those things were actually all working together to create the hot flash.
Yeah. It doesn't. People don't think, ladies don't think that there's triggers. They think it's hormonal, so it has to happen, or it happens, and it's not. It obviously is hormonal, but it doesn't have to happen. There are things that set them off. And the more I do this work, the longer I do it, the more and more I understand just how emotion-based hot flashes in particular are. The more you can get your emotions under control, the better. One of the other things that is a particular trigger is alcohol. Especially red wine could be quite a bad one. That doesn't always go down too well. There's the client that I'm almost finished working with, actually, and I said to her, and this happens typically, right, with virtually every client that comes through my door on the first session. One of the things I say to them is, what I want you to, is there anything that triggers your hot flushes? And every single one goes, no. I have nothing triggers it. They just happen. So I go, okay then, okay. So I go through a couple of things and they go, no. Right, okay. And this lady was no exception. And I said to her, oh, alcohol's a trigger, and red wine and things. Oh, no, that's not me. Right, okay. And then the last session, so we're talking sort of session 5, she came in and she said, oh my God, I've just had a revelation. So I said, oh, what's that then? And she said, my baby sham. I've been drinking baby sham in the night, in the evening. And as soon as I stopped, my really bad hot flushes have disappeared. I did keep my face really straight, I have to be honest. And I said, oh, I'm really pleased for you. That's fantastic, which it is. Right. But, you know, it's kind of like that. Well, I did tell you that right at the very beginning. But for her, it was something she sort of thought that couldn't possibly be a trigger because it's only a baby sham. Right. It's a bit a baby sham is quite an old-fashioned drink now that we have here. I don't know if you have it in America. I can't even begin to describe it. It's sort of a peary kind of alcoholic drink, sort of a pear thing. Looks
you
like
guys have things that we don't often have in America, like Pims. It's hard to find Pims here, but you probably are familiar with Pims.
Yeah, we have that. In the summer, we have Pims.
Let me ask you a different question real quick, and we can come back to these triggers in a moment, but I've checked the gallery view, and we have a lot of men on the show, and of course Michael's here, and this can be kind of a squeamish topic sometimes for the guys, right?
Yeah.
But it seems to me really important for male hypnotists to know something about this. Yeah. Not so much because they're going to probably do a menopause program, but for heaven's sake, if you've got a client in who's quitting smoking or in for stress relief or any other kind of thing, weight loss, and they happen to bring up, oh my God, I've got hot flashes and they're just driving me crazy, why not know how to help that client with that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I do have male practitioners that, you know, do the course with me. They go away, they help their, like you've just said, their own female clients. And they do take part. We have question and answer sessions every couple of months, and they join in, they take part. So yeah, why not? But yeah, I do have quite a few male practitioners that do this work with women. Some women prefer men.
Well, and women go to male gynecologists, so they may do this too. Do men get hot flashes?
That's a debatable one, isn't it? You know, that there is a case for the male menopause, isn't there? So, and I have included that in the book that I've just finished writing, a little bit about the male menopause. The symptoms are, if they do get them, the symptoms are very, very similar to the ones that ladies experience in the bit of irritability, the heat. But my understanding is they don't experience it into the extreme that women generally do, or quite often do. But the symptoms can quite often be attributed to different things. So, and it's the same with women. Some of the symptoms can be a sign of something else, not necessarily menopause. So there's that balancing act. You have to be aware of your own self, your own body for starters. And as always, I always say to my clients, you know, if you are not sure, if you are concerned with your health, you have to go and see a GP. I'm a hypnotherapist, not a GP. But usually when women get to sort of, quite often it's around the 40s, isn't it? In the mid-40s, where the perimenopause the run-up to the menopause starts to kick in, where they start to get hot flushes. I remember when I was about 40, starting with the excessive heat. But now, when I look back, I know that wasn't menopause, it was stress. It was stress-induced. Once I dealt with the stress, then that disappeared. So, you know, there is that thing of being sensible. But that being said, quite often, especially here, if you go to the doctors and you're our age, you get that, oh, well, it's your age phrase. So they kind of attribute everything to your age. And they don't necessarily like to do too many tests here. So you've really got to kind of push, because we have the NHS, and the NHS is absolutely fantastic. It is overstretched. So you've really got to push to get things tested, unless you get a really good doctor that sounds awful, I didn't mean it that way. Unless you get a doctor that's quite happy to do that, you know, you kind of have to push for some things sometimes. So, but they would generally put those kind of symptoms down to the menopause.
Well, here I think it may be a little different than that, in that they want to prescribe some kind of medication for it. You know, automatically here you're going to go on this horse urine medication, in order to deal with your hot flashes.
Yeah.
I'd much rather use hypnosis than take horse urine, I must admit.
Yeah. And what I typically find is that the ladies that come to me are the ones that have come off HRT, or they can't take it, because there's that quite a big group of ladies that can't take HRT, either because it just doesn't agree with them, or they just don't want to, or they've had cancer, which is estrogen reactive, so they can't take HRT. Or they have to be careful of the foods that they have as well. So, you know, they really do. One of the ladies on the original trial that I did was that person. And she went to the doctor and said, you know, I'm having really bad hot flushes and symptoms and things. And she was in her mid-40s. She was quite young, actually. And she wanted to carry on and get a job, but she didn't feel she was able to with all the symptoms that she was experiencing. And they just said to her, we can't take HRT, so we can't do anything. So she was left, but she was one of the really big success stories. She was able to get rid of her hot flushes. And I bumped into her just before I went to Canada. So that would be 2016 in the October. And she'd actually got a job. She'd moved her life on. She was doing absolutely fantastically well, but she knew how to control her symptoms. So, and that's the biggest part of it, because that gives ladies that feeling of empowerment again. Because quite often they can feel, especially if the symptoms are quite bad, they can kind of feel like it's being done to them. Not, you know, well, I'm actually still in control. They don't feel in control, and it's that kind of loss of control, isn't it? And then they get that feeling of empowerment back again, which
plus the hypnosis that goes on around that. I mean, the hypnosis that it's your age, just like you said. Oh, well, it's just your age, you know. So you're getting old, you're getting worthless. I mean, all of those things are part and parcel to that hopeless kind of feeling.
Yeah,
would you agree?
Absolutely. Oh,
Mike,
God, yeah.
Do you feel like we're leaving you out of this conversation?
Who, me?
Yeah.
Sorry, Michael.
Girls are just chattering along about.
Well, that's fine. I'll tell you what I was wondering, actually, is that you were talking about some of the triggers earlier, and is stress itself a trigger for menopause symptoms?
Stress is I would say, is probably the biggest trigger.
All right.
Because what happens with stress is it depletes the body of a lot of hormones. It's known as a hormone stealer. Technically speaking, the same. I'm going to use my terminology, which is not medical at all.
Oh, good.
Technically speaking, stress uses the same ingredients to make cortisol, the main stress hormone, as it does to make progesterone, which is the body's hormone form. It's like your natural antidepressant hormone. And it balances estrogen and out. The two are sort of like yin and yang. When you go through menopause, it goes like that, which is why we get the hot flushes and all the different the mood swings and everything, because the progesterone drops really quickly. So it leaves estrogen kind of unbalanced, which is why we get that seesaw thing. So when you're really stressed, it depletes your progesterone even more, because the body is diverting the resources away from making progesterone to making stress hormone, cortisol.
Great.
So that makes it worse.
All right. And so as I understand it, the program that you have is like a series of sessions, or how does that work with a particular practitioner and a client? Do they see their client for a certain number of times then? Is there I'm struggling to ask the right question, and I wonder what it is. I think I'm curious as to how it is that you work, and how that might be similar or different to what any other hypnotist would do.
What I do with my clients is probably not. It's I suppose it's similar to working with any client with stress, only the focus is on hot flashes and teaching them different techniques that they can use and making them more aware. That's one of the big things, is to make them aware of their symptoms, their lifestyle. It is what I would call a lifestyle tweak. It's getting them to do those things that they wouldn't think of doing. Like Karen mentioned earlier, that she hadn't put together before, the hot shower with the drying of the hair and the hot coffee. Was it coffee or tea? I can't remember.
I'm an American, so it was coffee.
Coffee. Yeah. I'm English, so it's tea.
Right. Of course.
So, it is very much making them aware of those things, giving them tools and strategies. But the hypnosis part of every session is focused in some way on reducing that intense heat, reducing that symptom down, helping them to use their own imagination. I use a lot of stories. I love stories. I think that's the teacher in me. I love stories. Right. So, and to be fair, quite a few of the stories that I actually use in the program itself were inspired by a few of the ladies on the initial trial. And it's encompassing sort of work that we would do, clinical work that we would do within a story. So they're actually learning lots of different stuff, but they don't necessarily realise that that's what they're doing. You know as well as I do, the subconscious gets it. When you tell a story, the subconscious gets it straight away. Yeah. So why not tell these ladies a lovely story and allow them to relax and go back to being young again and listening to a story like you did when you were at school. You sat in front of the teacher and she was telling you a fantastic magical story.
Yes. Yes, right.
Of course, not all hypnotists have had an experience with menopause.
No.
Fewer than half, but almost half the hypnotists are men to begin with, and some of them are younger than we are, right? Some hypnotists, females, are younger than we are, so they don't have hardcore experience with it. But in your class on the 18th, that Friday, will you be giving a list of things that they can put together, that they can work with their client on, they can talk to them about? I know you mentioned some triggers, but is there a list? Is there a discussion? Is there education about that in your...
Oh yeah, definitely. There is. Oh God, we're going to be joined in a second. The cat just jumped on. Right, Molly, say hello. This is Molly.
Hello, Molly.
Molly's very confused being up in the middle of the night.
Molly thinks she should be having her breakfast and going out. She's not happy because I'm not delivering the goods.
Right.
On the floor. Because of that, and because, like I said to you before, there's not necessarily that much awareness. People know here in England it's becoming very, very popular, hot topic, because a lot of the celebrities are now going through the menopause, so it's becoming a hot topic.
No pun intended.
Yeah, I didn't think of that. But yes, there is that education on, what to look out for, what the signs are, what the symptoms are, what it feels like, how other people experience it, those kinds of things. So you really are prepared. So you have that understanding, that little bit of knowledge, that background knowledge, so that you know what you're talking about when you sit in front of that client. And because 9 times out of 10, they don't understand, they don't have much... I was going to say clue, but that sounds dreadful, doesn't it? They don't have that much knowledge about what's going on, other than more or less what I said to you before, that their periods stop and they get hot flushes, or they might have some mood swings. Some people feel quite low and quite down with that. But when you understand the importance of eating the right nutrients to help balance those hormones, and all that is in the program as well. There's a list of different foods, there's lists of different nutrients that are known to be good to support the menopause symptoms. So there is in that pack everything that they should need, and if there's anything that they don't need, they can always ask. And people do, and that's why live stuff is so much better, because you get that conversation going, and people ask questions, and things come out of it.
I think Michael was alluding to the possibility of a protocol. Is there a
Yes.
system or a protocol that is done?
Yeah, and that's the point. The 6 scripts that we have, I go through a 6 session program with you. What you do on the first 2 sessions sets them up. What happens on the other sessions. So yeah, there's a definite protocol.
Yeah, one of the things that really is kind of clear to me in my experience is that no matter what the issue is, no 2 people are ever alike. You know, there are, for those of us who work with smokers or weight loss clients or whatever it is, there are as many ways to have issues with weight as there are clients. There are as many ways to have issues with smoking and substances as there are clients, you know, and so on. So I've noticed just in the discussion so far, there's been things like hot, by the way, I noticed that in the UK, by the way, you have hot flushes, and in America, we have hot flashes.
Right.
I just thought I'd point that out.
Same thing.
Something shifted on the way across the pond. I'm not sure which are better or worse, but there's at least that difference. That for some people, that may be the thing that really brings them to see you, whereas for some other people, it may have something to do with having a loss of emotional control, or a feeling of disempowerment, or any number of other presenting issues. And in fact, I'm willing to bet you that sometimes clients show up who are just exactly right for the work that you're doing, and they haven't identified that the reason that they're there is for menopause. They've come on behalf of one or the other of the symptoms associated with it, and and not even thought of it that way. So
yeah, you're absolutely right. There was a lady that I've almost finished working with, and hers is the other way round. She came to me for hot flushes, but it's when you have that conversation, which is why that conversation you have with them before you start the work is absolutely crucial. And the more she was telling me, you ask them about their lifestyle, because that gives you a crucial piece of information. It tells you what's going on. And then she started telling me about her hot flushes and everything. So I was asking her what it was that she was doing. What job does she do? Because that tells you an awful lot, doesn't it? And the more and more she talked, the more and more I became convinced that it wasn't actually hot flushes that she needed. It was to do with stress and self-esteem, that kind of thing. So what we actually did was we worked on that, not on the hot flushes. I think I mentioned it a couple of times, how lovely and cool she'd feel, something very, very, very simple. And because we actually controlled the stress and everything else, and she sorted that out, everything else just disappeared. So yeah, and it is experience. At the end of the day, it is using your gut instinct, your feeling on that person in front of you. But so you're right, sometimes they do come to you for one thing, and when you get talking to them, you realize it's not that thing that's driving the thing that they're actually coming to see you for.
Sure.
Right.
Nice.
Helen, we're asking plenty of questions, but I'm sure that there are people in the audience who would like to as well. And an easy way to do that, of course, everybody is muted, but an easy way to do that is right down there on the bottom of your screen. You can type your question into chat. There's a chat box. You can type your question into that, and we'll get those. We'll open the microphones soon, probably, Michael, right? And open it up for some questions, or open individual mics if somebody wants to ask a question.
Yeah,
type it in and we'll ask it, as the case may be.
By the way, for any of you that have just dialed in on the phone and you're not and you don't have a chat room to see, and some of you, by the way, may not even know about the chat room, and you're looking at us. So if you're on the computer and you haven't seen the chat room, down at the bottom of your screen, approximately under my chin, at least on an IBM, there is a little button that says chat. If you take your mouse down there, you can see it, and it'll open up a chat window on one side or the other of your screen. So yeah, if you have a question, you can just type in there, "I have a question." That'll let us know, and we'll open up a mic for you.
That's right.
And otherwise, if you're on the telephone and you've just dialed into this call and you're not on the computer, if you push *6, I believe that will unmute you. So in that case, of course, you need to just unmute yourself and kind of shout out that you have a question. We haven't figured out how you can raise your hands just yet, but I'm sure there's a way.
So as we're collecting those questions, Helen, let me ask, are there some simple solutions for this, or is it all deep trance state work? Is it heavy regression work, or a combo platter?
I think there are quite a few quick fixes that we can do. As I mentioned before, if alcohol's a trigger, you have to, the alcohol is a tricky one. Well, it's not a tricky one. It's a simple choice. Once your client is aware that alcohol is a trigger for them, or specific alcohol is a trigger, they have a choice then, don't they? They can either have the drink and know fine well they may get a hot flush, or they change the drink, or they don't have it at all. So that's a simple one. One of the other things that I teach my clients, and I teach everyone this one because it is really good. It's kind of like a broad spectrum antibiotic kind of thing. It does a lot of different things. Is the breathing technique where they breathe in through the nose, hold it, count to 4, and then they breathe out slowly through the mouth. That helps to just calm them down. As they do that, it helps the hot flash to dissipate. Mm-hmm. So that works really well. It's also brilliantly good for stress and anxiety, which quite often are symptoms of the menopause as well. So it helps with those things. One of the other things is to get them to slow down, because rushing around can be another trigger. If you're in the supermarket, next time you go to the supermarket, just stand still for a few minutes and just notice all the ladies. I was going to say the older ladies.
Thanks a lot, Helen.
I hate that phrase. You watch all the ladies rushing around the supermarket and then see them go beetroot red. Just slow down a pace. It's about standing still for a second, catching your breath, and then moving forward at a slightly slower pace. So, a lot of it is about helping them to understand themselves better, because as you get older, your body changes, and the menopause for women is a massive change. So it's helping them to understand those different changes. There is such a thing called, I always say to my clients, stop rushing around. You've got to slow down a tad. I'm not talking about going at a snail's pace. I'm talking about just slowing down a little bit. One of the clients that I was working with in the summer, she was a classic case of a rusher. She rushed everywhere. And I'd said to her, you've got to slow down. I kept repeating this to her. And eventually she came in and she had this newspaper article in her hand and she's waving it frantically. And she went, oh, it's actually a thing. What you've been telling me about rushing around is actually a thing. It's been written. There was an article in one of the papers that we have over here, one of the national papers, by a doctor. So that makes it even better. Talking about rushing woman syndrome causing hot flushes in the menopause. And I was like, what's that? Now you know what I've been telling you wasn't rubbish. So, there are a lot of simple things that we can do to help our clients before we start the hypnosis. Now, when we start the hypnosis, we talk about things being lovely and cool. We talk about feeling that nice, cool breeze, cool water. We remind them of those times when we've had nice cold things like ice cubes, or, as you know, in Chicago, playing in the snow, that kind of thing. And all that imagery helps them to use their own imagination, because they'll take what you tell them and use it in their own way, which is absolutely fantastic. And that helps to cool themselves down. So those are a lot of quick things that we can do straight away.
I was curious if imagining a cold drink or imagining ice is as effective as actually having a cold drink.
You put the two together, and that is really powerful.
Yeah.
One of the ladies on the trial, one of the things that used to set her off was cooking. Now, I have a simple solution for that one. Get somebody else to do the cooking.
Order out.
My husband wasn't keen on that one. But the way we sorted that one out was she had a glass of ice water with her when she cooked. And that's sorted it.
Sure.
Nice.
But also, by doing that, it reminds her, when she was doing the visualization, having that constant experience of really cold ice water just pushed it over the edge and helped, just helped that imagery to come to life, because the brain immediately remembered, oh yeah, it feels like this, oh how nice it is, and it just goes down. Right. But it's when you because the main part of hypnosis really is, apart from the relaxation, is to teach them how to use their own imagination in quite a lot of things. And menopause in particular works really, really well with your imagination. Because I know some of the stuff that we do is very clinical and very, you know, quite in-depth work, especially with subconscious and all that kind of thing. But this is quite often about getting them to use their imagination as well. We all know how powerful that is. But people, you forget, as you get older, you forget, don't you?
Well, and in hypnosis, one of the things we do is expectation. And boy, isn't there a lot of, not from hypnotists, but from periodicals, from doctors, from things in print that people want to believe, right? That says this is going to happen to you. Yeah. It's inevitable. So the hypnosis is already occurring. And the first hot flash is your compounded suggestion. Look at there. It's happening to me now.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, definitely. You know, and part of our work is helping them to change that and to make those differences that to themselves, because they can control it. You know, one of the ladies, the lady that came in with a newspaper, she was a very much a micromanager, and she called herself a stress head when she came in on the first session. And so that gave me the biggest clue going that I didn't need any more than that really after that. But you know, she said to me at the end of the day when she finished that she now felt she was able to cope really well. She felt empowered because she'd realised that she didn't need to manage everybody else's life as well as her own, and she didn't need to do everything that she was doing, and she learned how to control her stress much better along the way, and that in itself affected the hot flushes that she was experiencing. So it's not just one little thing, it's a whole package of things, and it's teaching them how to deal with all of those things, and you deal with that as well.
Right. There's a question here. We're almost out of time, Helen, but I want to get this question in real quick from B. Washington. Any regression to address the stress triggers, or have you found it not necessary in most cases to do regression work?
Sometimes I do. If it's necessary, I do. If it's not, I don't. But yeah, you may find that some people do need you to go back and regress. I had to do some really deep subconscious work last week with one of the ladies with hot flushes, because she said they were coming back again, some of them, and she couldn't tell me why. So we did some really deep subconscious work, and it turned out to be exactly what I kind of thought it was, because I thought the way she was talking, she was getting flustered. I just had that feeling she was getting flustered a lot, and when we did the subconscious stuff, that was what came out, that she was getting flustered and she was worrying a lot. So it's about helping her to realise that once you know what it is, it makes a world of difference. Just that little tiny bit of knowledge makes a big difference. So, you know, yeah, sometimes you do. Yeah.
Just like Michael said, I mean, you've really got to know and be prepared to deal with what presents.
Yeah.
What it has.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the same with any, whatever it is that sits, you know, whatever you're there to help people with, whatever issue it is, you have to go along with because after a while, you know, don't you? You know when it's this thing and it's not that they're talking about. That's like a red herring, isn't it? It's a smoke screen. It's what's behind the smoke screen that we look for.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, Helen, it's lovely to have you. And again, so late at night. So we're just really honored for you to join us with this.
It's my pleasure.
Program. It is again Friday, May 18th, the Friday of the conference weekend. It is an all-day program. So make sure that you have signed up for that if it's what you're interested in. There's a lot of people on the call here, so I hope a number of them will take the course. It sounds really, really useful, and we appreciate you sharing it with us.
And if someone doesn't know how to get in touch with you, Helen, how would they do that?
They can email me. My email address, well, I actually have two, but I'll just tell you the one. It'll be easier. My email address is helen@helenbreward.com, or if you just type in Helen Breward into Google, you'll come up with my website, helenbreward.com, and you can get me from there.
All right.
Okay.
I'll just put it in the chat room as well,
Okay.
so people can find it there. So what we're going to do now, Ellen, is we want to give you a proper send off to your segment, and of course you're welcome to hang out with us for the rest of the show, or and again, we do understand that it's late, but we want to give people a chance to say goodbye to you. So we are going to unmute everybody. We're going to just a moment of raucous cacophony.
Yes.
And to wish you well and thank you for talking with us, and then we'll make a switch over in just a minute and introduce our guest, Cheryl Elman.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks.
Bye,
Don't
Ellen.
even think about it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Helen. Very interesting.
Thank you, Helen.
Yeah.
Thanks, Karen and Michael.
Thanks for joining us.
Wonderful.
And don't anybody go away.
No, no, no.
And
I
here
just-
comes,
Just
Yeah.
notice that if Helen is man enough to stay with us in the middle of her night, the rest of you can stay with us too.
Helen's got her hormones in her.
All right.
Cheryl Elman coming up. So
Hi. Can you hear me?
So yeah, hold on, Sharon. I'm about to mute everybody, and that's going to throw you on mute, and I'll take you back off again in just a second.
Okay.
Okay, and you find my buddy Karen here. There you are. Hi, Karen. Welcome back.
hi there. Thank you.
So once again, just at the beginning of the second segment, in a moment, we'll be speaking with Cheryl Elman, and we are looking forward to that. Sharon mentioned before the call that she and I spent some time in Brazil recently, and yes, we did, and it was a lovely, lovely experience. So thanks for the reminder of that. I do want to mention, once again, for everybody's benefit, the program is being recorded. The recordings are on the IACT and IMDHA website under conferences and submenu teleconferences. Also, they're posted on the IACT and IMDHA forum. If you're a member of IACT or IMDHA, you can log into the Mind Matters forum, and you'll find them there. They should be there by noon tomorrow. And they are also posted in the virtual chapter, the group on Facebook. So go out to the virtual chapter group, and you'll be able to hear what Helen said all over again. And you'll be able to hear what Cheryl hasn't even said yet. So don't go just now, but soon that will be available and something that you can enjoy. I do want to tell you, Cheryl has a Bachelor of Science degree in varying exceptionalities K through 12 and elementary education, plus 30 years experience in business. She is president and the marketing force behind the Dave Elman Hypnosis Institute. And as a certified hypnotist and a certified massage therapist, I'm sorry, I'm looking at abbreviations. I thought this is some government agency, perhaps. I belong to the CMT. She's an international speaker and trainer, and she has presented at major conferences, plus co-trained with Larry Elman in 18 countries. She's an accredited trainer and consultant for the Goulding, she'll tell us about that in just a second, process of sleep talk for children. Sleep talk is something that I've heard of and I'm interested in, and looking forward to hearing what you have to say. So I am welcoming you, Cheryl. You can talk to us now. Hi.
Okay, so CMT is IACT training, Certified Master Trainer with George Bien.
It's not a certified massage therapist.
Nah,
Well,
Do you do any massage therapy on the side, Cheryl?
no,
Okay.
I have too many hats and balls up in the air,
Right.
so I'm not picking up that one.
yeah. Well, we're delighted to have you on the call with us tonight, Cheryl, and to hear about the sleep talk, something that if we could just start out for the benefit of people who don't know anything about this at all, what is the Goulding process of sleep talk for children?
Well, it's interesting that Helen went first, being that she talked about menopause. Now I'm on the other end of it. Sleep talk for children is a process. It's not necessarily therapy. It's a process of teaching parents to speak to their children 2 to 3 minutes a night to during their sleep cycle, which will build their self-esteem and emotional resilience. And She originally came up with this because when she had two daughters, and they were about a year apart, and Michelle was the older one, and she started to notice that Michelle was getting quite clumsy, and she felt that there might be some problems with her, and she kept learning from her younger sister, Teresa. So, and Teresa was taking the lead. So when, as she kept growing, she found that she would go and ask to get her tested and go to professionals, and they kept saying that there was nothing wrong with her child, that a little good parenting wouldn't help. Mm-hmm. And, you know, it wasn't until, and, you know, of course, there'd be the files from the previous people each time. When she moved to Australia and became a POM, she then found that finally a teacher said to her, you know, I think there might be something wrong with Michelle. Would it be okay if we did some testing? And I mean, she was relieved because she's been the only one that kept saying that there was something wrong. Well, they did testing, and what they found out was she had cerebral palsy, and that was some of the clumsiness. She had dyspraxia, which made it difficult for her to speak, dyslexia, and she had an IQ of approximately 45. Wow. And so she was 7 years old by the time this was discovered, and she really had no control. You know, she was a bit on the wild side, and she had no language other than no. And so two things. Number one, she would not be a good candidate for hypnosis, and Joan's husband and Joan had a school down in Victoria for hypnosis, but it was illegal to do hypnosis in Victoria at the time. Mm-hmm. So they actually had to do the theoretical part of it in their school, and then they would go to the next state to actually do the clinical for a week or so and come back, and then they could take their test. So they couldn't use hypnosis, plus she would not have focused for it. And they realized one day, due to an event that happened, that she had a lot more awareness and language than they had thought. And they realized that her subconscious mind, even though her conscious mind could not grasp so many more things, her subconscious mind had a lot more understanding, and it had more faculties. So they start to think about how to communicate with her, and so they started playing with the idea of speaking to her in her sleep. And that's how it started.
Nice.
So
And
Cheryl,
I'm
sorry, go ahead, Michael.
I was just saying, so how did you get involved with it then, Cheryl?
Well, back in 2011, I met Joan in California at Shelley Stockwell's conference, and we were on an education panel together. And so, and we just found ourselves talking a lot throughout the weekend. And, you know, sometimes you just really click with somebody, which is, by the way, one of the best things about going to conferences, as we got to do in Brazil and meet a whole new group of people. But it was so nice that we were down there with a group that we knew.
Yes.
So that's one of my favorite things about coming down to Florida, is to see, you know, people that I look forward to seeing every year, and meeting people from different countries, because more and more international people are coming.
Yeah, and I don't want to drift too far off of your topic, but that's I'm glad that you brought that up, because how many times have you been at IACT now? Do you know? It seems like I see you there every time I'm there, and it's always one of my favorite things is to walk down the hallway and reconnect, you know, with this great extended family that we have. When hypnotists are often asking about the organizations, like what does this organization have to offer me, or what does this organization have to offer, you know, me? How do I know which one to join? And I'm like, you know, it's a question of what it is that we get to offer each other by being affiliated in a group like that. So
our first time at IACT, I do believe, was in 2011.
Yeah.
It's either 2010 or 2011. I think it was in 2011.
Yeah.
I actually, Larry and Don Patterson or Sean Michael Andrews taught a 2-day best practice pre-course. And Larry and Don spoke the first thing on Friday morning, and that's as much of the conference I got to attend, because we had to leave and get on a plane to go to Kansas City for our daughter's graduation from medical school.
Oh, wow.
So I got to attend the conference itself for just a couple of hours.
Great.
And I remember I had heard them speak quite a few times, so I went in to hear Michael Elmer, and that was the first time that I heard Michael Elmer speak.
Wow.
Nice.
So, yeah. So that was the first time. I think we've only skipped a few years here and there because it gets to the point where you can't go everywhere. And sometimes we were just, we've done a lot of European tours for sometimes 2 or 3 months at a time back a few years ago. And sometimes we were in the middle of one of those tours and we had to miss it. But we've been there a lot.
Yeah. Well, and there's so much going on, and there's so much to learn, and in particular, by the way, one of the things to learn is the Sleep Talk program that Cheryl Elman is offering.
On Sleep Talk.
Monday. So bear in mind, by the way, everybody, this is a post-conference program. It is the full day on Monday. So make sure when you make your reservations and stuff that you get yourself organized so that you can be there Monday to attend this program. So Cheryl, you started talking about special needs children and how this works with special needs children. Is that what it's for primarily, or is it for? It's really for all children. And actually, I have to say, for the first time, they are actually stretching into using it with adults, with some older people too, that there's a pilot program going in Australia. But I have found that in teaching the parents this, parents are willing to work on or bring their kids for some therapy or some changes to change them, but often not looking at themselves. And so it's interesting because in teaching them the process, there's assessments, it's talking about how the mind works, it's talking about, communication and getting to talk from their soul to their child. And I find the biggest shift is in the parents themselves. So, because, and so Karen's laughing because I want to share, Karen is doing Sleep Talk and she has some clients here just talking. Would you share? Because I see you just like ready there.
I did train with Cheryl and I do some sleep talk work. And I think one of the ways that I look at it is, and I have not worked with any clients who have special needs kids. Their kids are all quite, normal children as we would think of it. But we look at it as resilience against bullying or, keeping their self-esteem high and that kind of thing. But the most interesting thing is, it seems to me it's a wonderful covert way of working with parents.
I know.
Yeah.
That's what we end up doing because the children are all fine. They're innocent. They're doing what they do. But it's a great way of teaching parents brand new skills in parenting. Wouldn't you agree, Cheryl?
Yes, and not only in parenting, because what they learn, what we're teaching them, and what we learn as consultants is a lot more about communications in general. So what they learn in learning to communicate with their child is another way or a different way that also build in their businesses, at work, with their relationships with the husband. It just overall, in a covert way, teaches them a lot about communication and starts to feel so good about it.
In the protocol that you learn as you're going down asking questions and ostensibly assessing the children, because the hypnotist doesn't really work with the children. We work with the parents, and the parents then work with the children. As you're doing the assessment and uncovering things, the questions that you're asking gives you all the information you need to know to work with the parents and how to redirect the life for the child.
Right. And parents start to see such changes in the child, whether it's in a short period of time or whether it takes a longer period of time. Part of it is the actual changes in the child, and part of it is how is in the communication and the way it's building with the child, so they're getting a connection that wasn't necessarily there, or no time. Everybody, if you go out to a restaurant and you see a family there, everybody's like this, you know, but they're not talking. They're just sitting there texting or watching something, or a kid is watching a movie during dinner. It drives me crazy when they don't bring them earphones.
Yeah.
You know, but the lack of communication, I mean, people don't sit down together and talk the way, because there's just so much stimulation from so many other things.
Why should I talk to my family? I have the portal to the world right here.
So in your Monday workshop, what will you be teaching?
Well, they will be learning, actually, it'll be level 1. The whole process, becoming a sleep talk consultant, is a 3-level process. And it takes about 6 months, because completing the process with some of your clients is going to take about 6 months. So level 1 is on Monday, and that is the bulk of, you know, of what you're going to train parents in, how to do the assessments, what sleep talk is and how it builds. You know, a lot of parents say to me, "Oh, I talk to my child in their sleep." And the fact is, when you ask them what they say, it's more of the same stuff that they're saying during the day. My child's a doctor, you know, you're so beautiful, you're so smart. Well, what if that child doesn't feel that way? Mm-hmm. So they're going to be learning the process and all the different ways the foundation works and what it consists of, and how it's construed. What are good suggestions made of? Now, my husband was the little boy in hypnosis attached to sleep, because his dad was Dave Elman. So if you're in the book and you read that, you know, but here Dave was there with his child, so he got to work on, Larry had really bad allergies. And Larry was about 12 at the time. And the difference is Dave was actually doing hypnosis with him while he was in sleep, and getting answers and talking back and forth. The parents are not hypnotists. They don't know what a good suggestion is. So what we're doing is arming them with a protocol of how they can teach their children. That they can speak to their children and impart that feeling and feel. You know, if you ask parents what would be a gift to give, so Michelle, they had to give her a gift that would last a lifetime, because now they've got this protocol. What are they going to talk to her about? What are they going to tell her? You know, so learning what those gifts are. So you can think about this afterwards. Write down what you think would be gifts that you would want to give your children, and see what they would be. But you need to come on Monday and find out what they all center around. There's one thing that everything centers around, and that is the same in relationships, even with you, with your children, with your parents, with your spouse, your friends. There's always this feeling, this thing that everything centers around. So, but that would be a good thing. Give yourself a little workshop thing to do, and write down those things that you think would be a great gift to give a child. So they'll be learning actually how to do the level 1, the initial teaching of the parents, the assessment of the parents, and how to then go forth working through the other processes, the other steps. And then we'll go into it in more detail when you get to level 2 and level 3, which will be available via Zoom and distant learning. So, which works out great, because you can actually go into little rooms and assess each other and stuff. So it's really nice. So, but you have enough on level 1 to become an intern, a sleep talk intern, and go out and start with your first clients.
Oh, great.
They could be clients, they could be friends, but what you're going to be doing is seeing some people and then submitting 3 case studies, 3 of the cases. You could work with 2 families. 2 can come from one family, 1 from another, and then you submit those and become an actual accredited sleep talk consultant, and then go on the international register.
And I know that you'll tell it in your class, Cheryl, but give us a little tip off how successful this was with Joan's daughter, with Michelle.
I'd be happy to. So Michelle slowly started, you know, they kept working on in her sleep and changing the protocol a little, and they were coming up with what would it take. And one day, remember, all she said was the word no. And one day she came down in the morning and Joan said, "Good morning, darling. How are you this morning?" And she looked and she went, "Happy?" So that was something she was hearing in her sleep. That was something that was part of the protocol. And just a few years later, she went from just that one word to, when she was in her special workshop that she went to as part of school and learning independent skills and stuff, she became known as Chatterbox. So she actually really, one of the things they worked on is that she could speak, you know, and that she could, you know, and that was one of the things that, you know, really helped with her. I guess I could even tell a little bit more about it. Michelle is actually in 2016, was 50 years old, is 50 years old in 2016, and she was married 25 years.
Nice.
Yeah.
So I know Joan's first book she wrote opened up with her at her daughter's wedding. So it was like really interesting, her original Sleep Talk book. So they would, so people that attend would actually know exactly how to proceed with the family. It's great when you can work with both parents. What I love about this, it's very Skypeable. So I actually almost prefer to work with parents over Skype, because this way I can have all my paperwork in front of me. And when you're in a room, or if I've once or twice been at their home doing it, there were a lot of distractions. But when you're on Skype, look how focused we are on each other, because we just have our little heads.
Yeah, or sitting out here behind the hotel like I am watching the beach.
I know. I'm sitting there going, I know, and there's my room right over there.
That's right.
Yeah.
So that, which is, so they will learn those things and be able to just start immediately working with people. And it's so great to feel that. The other thing about being Skypeable is if you are a hypnotist or somebody more new, or perhaps working a full-time job and you do not have an office, you don't need an office. And I find that a lot of the people tend to want to work often when their kids are in bed already. So I'll do some evening appointments.
Good.
And I also work with people around the world. You know, there's no borders.
Yeah.
And so, you know, 2 o'clock in the afternoon might be somebody else's evening, you know.
Does this also do well with sibling rivalry?
It's excellent with sibling rivalry, with self-esteem, with academic focus, with bedwetting, with thumb sucking and habits, with anger management, with courage. Sibling rivalry, it's excellent.
Mm-hmm.
With ADHD, Asperger's, I mean, it seems to help so many different aspects, because just like before, just like Helen was talking about, so much stuff centers around stress. Well, so many of the issues center around their own self-esteem and their feelings about themselves.
Sure.
So, so for example, one of the things that Sleep Talk is built on is how do you change? How do these positive suggestions help? And if you can envision somebody's head, you know, and it used to be called it is called the top hat theory, but I think most people have no idea what a top hat is anymore, because people don't wear hats. So, you know, just visualize a baseball cap on the head, you know, and the hat itself becomes the conscious brain. The inner part becomes the subconscious brain. And there on the back is what we used to know as antennas. But again, I was thinking of, how do you update that? Let's call it a cell phone tower back there. You know, and that is what's going to gather the information coming in.
Right.
So every day, you know, a child hears something during their day. How many times does a child come up to a parent, go all excited about something, going, I have something to show you, and they go, not now, I'm busy. Well, how does that child feel as they walk away? We don't realize how often little things that we do realize, because we're hypnotists. So when we're working with clients and they go back to their childhood, you know, and it could be just a little statement, a little moment that was nothing big or traumatic, that something started. And then it kept building on it. That little ISE just started with this little thing that happened. So all these are little moments during the day. It could be they answered a question wrong in school, and the teacher did not, in a positive sense, tell them that was a really good try, but that's not quite right, as opposed to, no, you're wrong, and they feel really rejected and stupid. Or somebody, the kids, teasing them, calling them, because kids can be very horrible with each other, calling them stupid or ugly, and they take that on, believing it.
Yeah.
So they have all these negative thoughts and feelings in there. And what Sleep Talk does is put positive feelings, positive thoughts, positive statements about, very open-ended, that they get to absorb. Mm-hmm. And from that, slowly but surely, as those positive statements get fed in every night, that just by doing this process, that the next time something is said to them, they don't take it on. It's like that wall is up and it just bounces off. And that is the goal.
Yeah.
Now, to be fair, it's not a one-off. Parents don't get to just do this one night and say, okay, my child has changed. It is a process. There's some consistency required to it.
Yes.
Yeah.
It should really be every night, if they can do that. I mean, is it detrimental if they skip a night or they don't get to it? No, but if they start skipping and they're doing it once a week, that's not going to be very effective. Mm-hmm. So just like if for us doing self-hypnosis, or for the things that we do for ourselves, you know, the more consistently we do it, the more consistently we go to the gym and work out, or don't go to the gym and work out, you're going to get what those results are, that for the stuff that you're putting out there.
Sure. Yeah. Something that's really lovely about this, Cheryl, is that both you and Helen are offering something here that people can come, they can get some training at the conference, and they can go home and in the case of Helen's students, they can start on Monday. In the case of your students, I'm afraid they're going to have to wait until Tuesday. But leaving with a protocol, and with something that they'll be able to do, and something that really is a specialization, and that's a lovely thing, because it is a specialization, Cheryl. And I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I'm wondering if you have any insight as to so that people can appreciate the scope that's available here, as to how a new practitioner would go about getting clients for Sleep Talk, because nobody's ever heard of going to a hypnotist for this before.
I was just at Walmart last night, which is one of the only supermarkets in town here. And I pulled in and I parked, and I have this little purple sign that I had gotten during this promo thing I was doing with Vistaprint. In fact, I only have that one on just one side of my car. And it's this little purple cloud kind of thing saying Sleep Talk for children. And he stopped me and he goes, "Can you tell me what is Sleep Talk?" So, it's very similar. If you go to BNI, Business Network International, and you've got people going, "Hi, I'm a doctor. Hi, I'm a lawyer." And you say, "Hi, I'm a hypnotist." People, they want to know more. So when I say I'm a Sleep Talk consultant, or I have a sign on my car, or I give them a card saying Sleep Talk, for children, and I actually do have an extra set of cards that is Sleep Talk, because in some places, it gives you, places that would not want to hear about hypnosis would definitely want to hear about Sleep Talk. Preschools, churches, elementary schools. It could get you in speaking, and we do teach you and give you materials to start working in groups also. You would go about it just by talking about it. People are interested in what Sleep Talk for children is. People go, "Oh, it's a 2 to 3 minute a night process, that builds self-esteem and emotional resilience in kids. And people go, ah, it's like, you know, when you say I do hypnosis and they go, I don't need that. I go, oh, you must not, you probably aren't stressed then. Oh, what do you mean? I'm really stressed. You know, that's the hook for getting people to talk about hypnosis, because who doesn't have stress in their life?
Sure, nice.
It's also an easy referral type business too. And I don't mean referral necessarily from doctors, although I'm sure that it can work into that. But as parents see improvements with their kids, they're willing to talk about this. They're willing to. I have a client whose children are in a Montessori school, and I've already gotten calls from other parents at that school because these parents have talked about it, you know, in school meetings, about the improvements that it made just by doing this very simple thing.
Right.
And it does have impact. So it's a great way to bring, you know, referral clients in by letting somebody else talk about what you do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Plus getting out and talking and giving your card out, you know. And if you're coming to the conference, I'm sorry, for all of those of you coming to the conference and people thinking of it, think about, if you're choosing to take this course, who do you know that you could start with? You know, so even if you don't have clientele, who do you know that has children? You know, if you're more in my age range, who do you know that have grandchildren? There are lots of grandparents, they hear about this and they want to, you know, I do have a book at the conference on the basics. You know, it doesn't have all the consultancy stuff in there with the assessments or anything, but it gives the starting parents, you know, something to work with. We give the parents all the materials, and as a consultant or as an intern, you get a private Facebook group that, again, just like Helen said, people can talk about, put their processes out there, put their questions out there, and it's only for consultants and interns from around the world, and you have people in there answering and monitoring. So besides the Facebook group, there's the main Sleep Talk website. There is, and I do webinars also, you know, like 1-2 hour, and I want to do more of them where the people that are interns and consultants can come on and talk about how they're doing and what they're doing. And so it's an ongoing training. So it's, you come to this first thing, and then the ongoing training, there's some webinars, you know, for support, and then there's 2 other sections of it also.
You know, there's something that occurred to me is that in terms of the people that I know that have children, they fall mostly into one of 2 categories. There are people who absolutely dote on their children and they want to do everything wonderful and supportive and great that they can do for their kids. So they're excellent candidates for this kind of work. And then there are the other ones who really want to figure out what it is that they can do to try to get a handle on what's going on with their kids and to establish some kind of control and improve their relationships. So
then again, it's only going to take 2 to 3 minutes a night.
Nice.
During the sleep.
So I have a question for you.
Do you have 2 or 3 minutes?
Yeah, I have a question for you from one of our viewers as well. Joy Hoffman asks. She says, for someone not making it to the conference, and we're so sorry, Joy, because we don't even know you all that well, and we are going to miss the heck out of you.
Yeah, so, and look at that pool back there, Joy, and think about that, whether or not you want to reassess that.
But we'd love for you to be able to join us, and we understand that some people can't. So she says, for someone not making it to the conference, what do you recommend, Cheryl? Are there any other options to receive your training?
Yes, I do, and I'm going to put together an English date because I did have one for Portuguese already planned. But I do train via internet. So if people want to do it, because I have people from around the world that want to take it. I think, Karen, there was somebody from the Netherlands the last time you took it, and somebody from Brazil, I think. You know, so it's sort of nice because you get to meet sort of like your virtual meetings, people from around the world. Yeah. And so yes, you can contact me, Joy, and I'm just starting to look at my schedule. I've been talking to Sheila Granger. We may do one jointly in May, a 2-day. So yes, and that would be And then there will be some support after that. So yes, if you contact me, and you can contact me at sleeptalk.us@gmail.com, or you can also contact me at daveelmanhypnosis@gmail.com. And if you watch my website, Dave Elman Hypnosis Institute, I usually have some of the classes that are going on posted right there. And so I do need to come up with a new date for the next English one, and I will be posting it. I got to find those.
Let me say that it was at the IACT conference last year when Cheryl and I had lunch, because remember, that's part of what conferencing is all about, is sitting down and talking with your friends and reconnecting. And we started talking about sleep talk, and I told her I was very interested. Well, there wasn't a workshop or a full day training at IACT last year. So Cheryl and I put together a training that we did outside the conference. So, and that's where we met people from Brazil and the Netherlands and all of these other people who did the training. So yes, you can set that up. It's
so
very on Zoom.
Besides the group one, I've also trained people, as we started to do also, just one-on-one.
Right.
But I think it's, and they're both nice because you can always come into the groups also. So once you're working with me, if there's another group meeting, you're welcome to come, or if there's a video, like a webinar speaking at night, and where we all get to change, talk about the clients or cases we're working on. So I hope that answers your question, Joy.
Yeah. So I want to remind everybody that chat box is there if you've got a question and you want to let Cheryl know. And if you just tell us you've got a question, we'll open your microphone. You can ask it yourself, or you can type it in the box, whichever you like. If you're on the phone, *6 will unmute you so you can say, hey, I've got something I'd like to ask. We're coming around the bend here, Cheryl. We've only got a few minutes left. So we want to make sure people have a chance to get in if they want to do that. One of the things I notice about hypnotists when they're sitting in front of a screen is that they go into a deep.
I keep looking around to make sure I don't. I was also checking to make sure I hit everything that we wanted to talk about.
I do believe that you did.
Well, I'm very curious about you talking about the work with adults, because it makes perfect sense for children and how parents would want to get involved with this. But when you say working with adults, are you talking about working with special needs adults? Or is this something we can teach wives to work on their husbands with at night?
Yes. It's funny because remember, my husband used to be the little boy in Hypnosis Attachment Sleep. But I can't talk to him in his sleep. He has one good ear and one deaf ear, and he sleeps on his good ear. So if I need him, I got to really tap him. But, it's interesting because I'm trying to think who it was. Somebody I've talked to recently was so moved by sleep talk. And one of the reasons he was so moved by it is he had actually at a conference heard me speak on it and got a little information on it. And I think he bought the book. And his mother had Alzheimer's. And he would do this to her in her sleep. And she would smile, just like lots of times the kids smile in their sleep, or, say the next morning, the fairies come to me at night and they just sound just like my mommies. After a while, you never tell them you're doing it, but they know, they get to know. Some of them, really, they want it. Can you talk to me? They don't necessarily remember what you say, but lots of them smile. So he said that those were like the moments, the few moments he saw with her having cognition.
Nice.
So it would be really interesting. For years, Joan said, well, with husbands and wives, that would sort of be like, unless you had their permission, that would not necessarily be the best, but working with, I think there was a special needs group, and I'm sure working with seniors, that could be very helpful, because it's talking just like with Michelle, where her her conscious brain, you know, that baseball cap or top hat, you know, part of her was not able to comprehend. Well, actually, she comprehended. She didn't communicate. But yet, through the subconscious, she did have language because she was expressing something or trying to express something when they realized that she did have more understanding than they had ever anticipated. Yeah. So using that possibly with seniors could be a really good thing.
Yeah. I have a group home in my neighborhood that has adults with special needs, and my next venture is to work with that group home. Of course, they have caregivers who are with them at night, and I'm very curious to see what might be accomplishable as far as you know, behavior changes, sibling rivalry. They're not siblings, but you know, you have 5 adults with special needs living in a house. You're going to have some kind of replicated sibling rivalry. So I'm very interested in seeing how that's going to work.
Great, and we'll have discussions with Joan about it too. So that'll be good. Any other questions?
Well, actually, there is somebody asking, and I have a feeling that there are a lot of variables involved in the answer for this, and we're moments away. So it might turn out to be something.
I'll try to talk fast. What?
Well, Michael is asking, what would an online class cost?
Okay, so we'll cover that because that could depend on, as you said, a bunch of things.
Yeah.
So,
he can contact you.
And he can contact.
If you're going to take level 1 at the conference, it's a great deal. Take it.
Yeah. Okay.
And I will have special prices for the group that takes level 1. Much, you know, really nice pricing for them to continue.
And if I could just touch back on what you said a minute ago, of course, the idea about doing sleep talk with the fellow's mother that had Alzheimer's, that's a lovely story. It also occurs to me, and I guess the story isn't quite as lovely because the responsiveness isn't the same, but it occurs to me that this would also be something really good to do if you've got people that are in comas and stuff like that. Is that true? Would it
makes sense, doesn't it?
It's those are beautiful. That's a beautiful thought. I mean, because is it ever wrong? I mean, people sometimes have said to me, "So do I have to do this, or how long do I have to do this?" I said, "Well, is there ever a time you want to stop telling your child that you love them? It's 2 to 3 minutes." You know, I think one of the hardest groups. You know, sometimes we've always said figuring from, you know, some people start with newborns. You know, and just like some people talk to the baby in the womb, you know, you could start then. But definitely as children have comprehension, I've seen definite changes in like 18 months and older. Sometimes when you get to the teen years, they're not as cooperative. But then again, you know, maybe teenagers don't want to listen to you anymore in their sleep than they do during their waking hours. Because, you know, there's a period that, from a teenager's point of view, you know, adults just don't know anything. My dad used to say to me, when I get to be 26, I was going to see how much smarter he got. Well, he was right. When I got to be 26, I was always asking his opinion. From ages 15 on, I really thought he had nothing to offer.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, gosh, it's lovely, Cheryl. The time has just flown by. So we really thank you for all of the sharing. I mean, this is just a great thing. So here at this incredible conference that we all enjoy so much every year, here are 2 ladies that have shared with you tonight specializations that you can go home after the conference with and add something new to your toolbox. And in both cases, something really rich and rewarding. I noticed a minute ago, poor Helen, I saw her holding herself up with one arm.
3 o'clock in the morning for her.
I understand that. Yeah. Yeah. We can still get a drink here. So let's
go get one. Let's go get one that gives us hot flashes. I have to share, by the way, with that, Helen. I always found that what I got it from, if I drank something like Crystallite or anything that had certain artificial sugars, which I hardly ever put in my body, I would get major hot flashes. And even though those are gone, I still am getting if I drink something like that or I'm eating something and all of a sudden I feel that, I realize there's probably some of that in there.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, nice.
definitely. Yeah.
So
All right.
I want to thank everybody for allowing me to come on and share this with you. And I'm really looking forward to seeing lots of you at the conference and bring some friends, because it's one, you know, I love this conference because there's a lot of camaraderie. Come dance with us on the Friday night, making your own s'mores. Let's have some sugar and some chocolate. But I mean, it's got a lot of fun, and there's that feeling of just being down by the beach. And yeah, I was thrilled to see Karen there last year because I'm used to seeing her in Chicago.
Yeah.
So I was so excited when she came there. And so you start to see people from, as I said, all over the world.
Get used to me. It's going to be hard for me to miss a Daytona conference. I got to tell you, it's a great place to go.
All right.
And
So,
we want everybody to thank you, Cheryl.
Yes, yes. Well, we do want everybody to thank you. And before we do that, I just want to tell everybody, remember the recording will be available tomorrow around noon on the IACT IMDHA forum, on the IACT website, on the IMDHA website, and on the virtual chapter group on Facebook. So, so give it a look and you can hear all this lovely stuff once again. Thank you so much, Cheryl and Helen, for being with us. And we'll look forward to seeing all of y'all at the Daytona Beach conference. I said all of y'all, so I realize I met every single last one of you.
And next week is our final show, so be sure you join us next week. We'll talk to Anthony DeMarco, and we'll do a wrap-up of all of the presenters as well. So if you missed anything, you'll be able to catch up.
So here we go. I'm taking the mute off now, and everybody can say goodbye. And thank you again, Cheryl. Thank you again, Helen. We'll see you all around the block.
Welcome.
Thank
Bye.
you. Thank you, Cheryl. Thank you, Helen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye. Good night.
Night.
Yeah, that was fun.